welcome to the Passenger Seat Podcast, a podcast designed to fill your passenger seat with chat about classic cars, all recorded from my 1968 Morris Minor Peggy. I'm Becca, and today I'm going to be reporting on the adventure that we had up to Woodall Spa for the Women Drivers Social Club Winter Warmer, and perhaps you'll find a new place to go and explore in your own classic car along the way. Now, when it comes to organising winter events for classic cars clubs, it is always tricky because you do want the opportunity for everyone to be able to show off their cars, catch up, have the opportunity to look around each other's cars and perhaps help each other out with a few little things that they've got going on with their cars. But obviously the weather is unpredictable and you want to have something to be able to do indoors. So we've had quite a lot of luck in previous years with some fantastic locations. Our very first warmer, we went to Stonehurst Farm. Last year we went to Classic Collective at Bicester and then along for a meal. This year I was inspired by many of our campfire chats at our weekenders. After a certain time in the evening, it's quite often that the topic of the cars universe will come up. The practicalities of it, the realities of it, which elements of the real human universe that we all live in have translated across. That old idea of does Jesus exist in the cars universe, and much more. And as a result of that, I thought it'd be really fun for us to get together and watch the very first Cars, especially as this year is the 20th anniversary of the first Cars movie. So I had a look round at the idea of going to a cinema, looked up various vintage cinemas around the country, but in reality I ended up coming back to the place that really inspired this, which is the Cinema in the Woods in Woodall Spa. It's a place that I went to growing up because we lived at RAF Coningsby for a little while when I was younger, and is what I remember is kind of the first place that we went to the cinema at. And so it's very cool in there, very interesting, and as a young child the bonus of having the intermission to go along to the bathroom or to get more snacks was always a really brilliant bonus. And it definitely made going to your bigger chain cinemas afterwards a bit of a disappointment. And once again, my work with Cars with Character, the tour app, had highlighted the location to me, as I'd ended up using it as a stop for one of the routes that I'd done for him through Bomber County, because Woodall Spa has a huge amount of history within World War II and it's just a really fascinating and interesting place. I was also drawn to the area because next to the Cinema in the Wood is the Tea House in the Woods, which is a very historic tea house that has been there pretty much the same amount of time, if not longer, than the cinema, which was set up by some Edwardian women who were feeling particularly enterprising and wanted to go into running a small business in the woods in the Woodall Spa town. So tying that all in together, it seemed like a fantastic location. So I got in touch with the cinema and they were fantastic, really helpful, really good, and it surprised me how easy it was to book out a cinema to go and see a film that wasn't available in the cinema anymore. They were really good, and I think it's something that particular cinema is very popular for, because when we were there this weekend, there was also another one of their screens booked out for the entire day, over 12 hours, for a group of people that were dressed as hobbits and other Lord of the Rings characters to watch the full Lord of the Rings trilogy. And again, a fantastic choice of cinema to do it in, because you get those inbuilt intermissions and things like that to go out, pop to the toilet and get more snacks and things before you settle into the next section. advertising it, and it was extremely popular. We had hoped to sell around 30 tickets, and we did indeed do that, and many of those tickets sold very early on in us releasing the tickets for it, so that was fantastic, and it gave us lots of space in their cinema to enjoy it, have some space around us, and have a good time. For us, on the day, we set off a little bit early. We were going to go to the tea house in the woods for breakfast and meet my friend Tash there for breakfast. Got there, had a really lovely breakfast, very reasonably priced. Perhaps not as well priced as the lovely little Dorrits on the high street, but a really lovely setting, and the staff there were absolutely brilliant. And we got Peggy parked up outside, and then once we were done there, we moved across to the Kinemas car park, which has grown massively since when I used to go as a kid. They've really taken over a nice little area there, and we managed to get kind of a section of the car park to ourselves, and we timed it really well in terms of finishing up at the tea house, because once we kind of parked up, we had a gradual stream of everybody really arriving at the same sort of time. So perfect timing. Got ourselves all parked up, set up, started catching up with each other. I got the little bits and pieces of merch that I brought along in case anybody was interested in that. I'd also made some more gingerbread biscuits, like the ones I'd made over Christmas, but with a wider range of cars available for people to have a go on, and shared those about as well as people were catching up in the car park. We were really lucky in that we were right next to a cinema, so people were able to pop in and get drinks and things like that to warm themselves up as we carried on sitting there and having a nice chat. And very quickly it was time for our screening. We'd gone for an afternoon screening so that people had time to come across in the morning. We had people that had come across the day before, stayed locally, and were heading back that evening. We had people that had done a massive drive in the morning and were going back later that evening. We had people that were doing quite decent trips all in one day. It was fantastic to see the level of commitment so many people were putting in to be in there, and so hugely thankful for that. And yeah, people coming as far as Scotland and Southampton and Shropshire, so absolutely brilliant, and so good to see everyone again. And the fantastic location of it being such a beautiful, historic, really well preserved cinema meant that a lot of us felt immediately that it was worth the trip, because to get to see a film that you all really enjoy with a group of friends in such a lovely place was absolutely brilliant. We went in, got ourselves all settled in, got ourselves loaded up with various bits of snacks and drinks. The popcorn and drinks and stuff were incredibly reasonably priced, and I believe that their ticket prices there are below what you'd probably pay at most showcases and Odeons and things like that these days. So really lovely, and so much to see in the foyer. They've got so many historical artifacts to do with cinema, so many old projectors and things like that. They've got Lego displays to do with films that looked fantastic, and they also had these tea towels up that were for the cinema, and I thought they looked amazing, and I was like, oh, I really wish that they had those for sale, because they'd go really well in our lounge. And it turns out that they did. They looked like they were genuine, like really old vintage tea towels, but actually something that they still had for sale. There was also lots of amazing pictures of a cinema throughout the years in the cinema walls and stuff like that, so you were able to see lots of the history, and an amazing picture of some bombers flying right over the top of it, because obviously it was so close to where they were all flying out from. And probably a favourite for those that were off duty during the war. Once we got ourselves all settled in and found our seats, naughty people at the back obviously, and it was then time for me to go and tell them that we were ready to start. They have beautiful curtains that are across the screen. Those pull back, you get kind of a welcome to the kinema screen, and then the movie began. And it was so cool to see it on the big screen, because I didn't actually go and see it in the cinemas when it first came out. So it was so cool to see it on the big screen and be surrounded by everyone and hearing everyone laugh at the parts that make us laugh, and just generally enjoy the movie together was lots and lots of fun. And like I said, this cinema offers the option of an intermission, so we went for that. And during the intermission, the piano that is at the front of the screen self-plays various movie songs. So it was self-playing various Star Wars medleys as I did our little giveaway. So I'd managed to get hold of 3 Lightning McQueen figures, and then Amanda had brought along a very challenging 36-piece Lightning McQueen puzzle for us to give away as well. So popped everyone's names into a spinny wheel, and then saw who pulled those out, and handed those over before people headed out into the foyer to get a little break, stretch your legs, talking about the movie and things like that, before we headed back in to watch a little bit more of the film and finish it up. And again, it was so good to sit there, see it all, see through the credits, see the after credits scenes and stuff like that, and properly sit through all of them and really enjoy all the effort that goes into so many of these Pixar films. And then it was time for people to leave, but we were more than slightly reluctant to do so. It took ages to get everyone to kind of gradually move out of the screen so that they had the opportunity to tidy it up and get it ready for whoever was going in next. And then we got out to the foyer and people were still chatting and getting some drinks and things like that, and then eventually made it to outside the cinema. And then once we were outside the cinema, eventually made it back to the cars. So lots of chatting, lots of really good stories being shared, and yeah, just generally a really lovely day out. And we had a fantastic time. When we did eventually make it back to the cars, it was then time to try and get out of deepest, darkest Lincolnshire, and that was truly what we were experiencing. The roads to get out were the windiest, darkest roads I'd experienced in a while. There was quite a lot of fog and things. I was leading a convoy of me and my sister in her Hillman Imp Californian, and it was somewhat nerve-wracking for sure, but we make it out to the A1 eventually. And then once we were at the A1, it's only a little bit down before we stop for some dinner at, of course, Brightside. And hopefully I'm doing an absolutely fantastic job of advertising them, because I really do talk about them quite a lot, but we do really enjoy every time we go. And it is a little bit of a shame that sometimes when we go it's quite quiet in there, because they do some really fantastic roadside stuff. And I think that it will perhaps become more popular as more people get into EVs and wanting slightly longer stops and things like that on their travels. But for me as a classic car driver, having the opportunity, having done quite challenging dark roads with fog and things like that where you're quite tense just beforehand, to get there to have a little break before being able to head out further onto the A1 and head home was much appreciated. So had our break there, enjoyed our meal, and then it was time to head on home. And yeah, fantastic time, really loved it. Highly recommend if you're a car club looking for a cinema or something like that you can book out, that's got a lovely location around it like that, where you can obviously have a chat and a good time, but then perhaps go on to enjoy something together in the warm and dry afterwards for the winter. Lots of fantastic automotive movies that we could work our way through with these, so I'm sure it will be something that we perhaps return to in a couple of years' time for a bit of an interesting meet once again. Huge thank you to all of the women that came along and the effort that you've all made to get there. It's getting to the point with many of these women drivers events that even beginning to list everyone that was there and their cars is beyond possible. But we had a really lovely turnout, and it was so good to see everyone, and some new faces and returning faces getting to know each other as well, which is great. But that's it for this week. Thank you ever so much for listening. Drive safely and happy motoring.